President's Day. President's Day.
We're in live? Okay. It's President's Day.
Yes, it is.
Mardi Gras.
It's President's Day, but we're talking about
Did
the
anything
ex-president.
happen over the weekend?
Just little things.
Little things.
You know.
Is 57-43 a little thing?
Those were the lotto numbers I played. I didn't win.
Dan, define little.
Not in my vocabulary.
Look at those feet. Come on.
I'm going to jump in there.
Let's do that.
All right, let's have some fun with
Yes.
the news. Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It's 7 p.m. Monday, February 15th, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
The world's first live daily queer evening news show, Out of the Closet and Into the Headlines on Q News Tonight.
Well, thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is a live, unedited LGBTQ evening news show. Whatever happens, you will see it here. This evening, we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ community from South Florida, America, and across our world. I'm your Queer News Tonight anchor, Al Ferguson, and tonight, let's welcome anchor Faye. What? She's out, she's proud, and you've heard me say she's most certainly loud. She's a Latina to be reckoned with, half Puerto Rican, half Colombian, and 100% freaking Jersey. She's a radio personality and has the popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G in LGBTQ, called Faye What? She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, a board member at Unity Coalition, and also an animal advocate dedicated to providing excellent service to your pets as the owner of Faye's Fur Family. She's also the new host of the travel news show, happeningout.travel. Good evening, Faye.
Hi, good evening. You like my mask? This is how I had safe sex for Valentine's Day.
Wait, you're having safe sex?
Every once in a while.
You've been married a long, long time.
We still got to be safe. COVID's still out there.
All right. She has been vaccinated. That's safe sex. All right. Next, let's welcome anchor Dan Rios. He is the director of LGBTQ marketing for the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, the official destination marketing organization for Greater Miami and the beaches. Greater Miami is one of the top LGBTQ travel destinations in the world. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It's going to be a fun night. Tonight we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Monday, February 15th. Let's begin by queering up breaking queer news. What 7 votes and Mitch McConnell, Trump is practically and morally responsible mean to the LGBTQ community. Watch this.
That President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day. No question about it. The people who stormed this building believed they were acting on the wishes and instructions of their president. But in this case, the question is moot because former President Trump is constitutionally not eligible for conviction.
That's called a BAM in Alexis Mateo speak. It's President's Day, and there has never been a President's Day where the fate of a former president and what a future president may be held accountable for was more at play. This is a critical crossroads for the LGBTQ community with the oncoming Equality Act, trans rights, and America's world power supporting LGBTQ rights. A majority of senators voted on Saturday to convict former President Donald Trump on an impeachment charge of incitement of an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol.
But the Democrats' side needed 17 Republicans to join them in order to reach the 2/3 threshold needed to convict. 7 GOP senators voted with Democrats, the most bipartisan impeachment vote in U.S. history, but well short of the 17 needed to convict the former president. Of those 7 Republicans, 2 are retiring and only one, Alaska's Lisa Murkowski, faces her state's voters in the next election cycle in 2022. Among the biggest surprises was North Carolina Senator Richard Burr, which voted to convict Trump. His vote has created a rebuke by the North Carolina GOP.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, while voting to not convict the president, issued a blistering statement immediately following the vote that shocked other Republicans and especially Fox News. He made it clear that while the process argument ultimately cast his vote against conviction, he clearly said Trump was directly responsible for the Capitol insurrection. He surprised the LGBTQ community by suggesting Trump could be held responsible in the courts for any and all actions taken while he was president.
So as the nerd that most of us are on Q News, we were all like glued to the TV while this all was going on Saturday, right?
You were texting me.
We were texting each other, and I see Mitch McConnell, and I'm like, and I text Al, and I'm like, what the F? He voted against this. Why is he saying all this? And Al's like, no, just watch, honey, just watch. And all of a sudden, the fan came out, and the shade was everywhere. And you know what? After his statement, there was hope. Like, I'm like thinking, he might actually pay for this. Maybe.
Yeah, but you know what it is this, they bully everyone. Look what's happening already in North Carolina. So you really can't speak. They're really scared to actually do what's right.
Yeah. The most interesting thing here is we knew that we weren't going to get to 67. Right. We all really knew that. Having 7 votes is historic. It is just historic of the same party impeaching and convicting their president of their party. So that's historic. But second, McConnell is devastating. He is devastating to the president because he is trying to literally put a blade between ex-President Trump's shoulder blades. And he is trying to set, you can never vote for him ever again. And it was a blistering rebuke that is going to have reverberations for the next 4 years. Well, next, let's queer up gay culture. Happening Out television network host and trailblazing queer artist Ari Gold dies at age 47. Watch this.
Place. You know, you don't want to, you know, even the word, I grew up with that word being, the worst word, cancer. You know, that's how you say it. You know, you can't even say it in full voice. And the truth is that so many people get diagnosed with, I think it's something like 40% of all people get diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime, which is scary, but possibly true. I'm going to conversation. I feel so inspired just to continue my day now. Thank you.
Absolutely, and I'm going to tell all of my friends I was in bed with Ari Gold. I'm for sure going to tell them. I was. All right.
You're not lying.
No, I'm not lying. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Ari, a pleasure, and we wish you all the luck with your medical situation, and we know you're going to get better.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good night.
I hope to see you live. Okay, good night.
And he did come back. And Happening Out television network guest and host of our show, New York City-based dance artist Ari Gold has died at age 47. Having just celebrated his birthday earlier this month, the death comes after a long battle with cancer. Many have posted their condolences online, including RuPaul. Gold released 7 albums as part of his career. He released music as an out gay artist and started his career in the early 2000s. He is best known for Where the Music Takes You, which featured Sasha Allen. His music video, Wave of You, released in 2004, was the first video ever by an out LGBTQ+ artist to world premiere on Logo. He went by the names like Sir Ari and Gold Nation, in addition to Ari Gold. Gold had a battle with cancer and in late 2019 was declared cancer-free. The same day he received that diagnosis, he did an interview with RuPaul for his podcast called A Kiki from the Cancer Ward. In the series, Gold was interviewing close friends and others who visited him while hospitalized. Rue's interview was the first conducted outside of the hospital in the musician's Lower East Side apartment. She didn't get to do it in bed like I got to. Ari appeared on It's Happening Out as both host and in guest interviews. He was a close friend of our producer and new anchor of Happening Out.Travel's show, David Hopkins. I famously interviewed Ari, and he was recovering from cancer treatment at the time while he was in bed. Ari Gold was a trailblazer for the LGBTQ community and will be missed by all of us at Happening Out Television Network.
What a loss, what a loss. And you know what? Cancer sucks, big time. RIP. I was reading an article. I mean, this gentleman was like a trailblazer. Right? He was a trailblazer, but he was like the queer Rosa Parks. You know that he got thrown off a bus for holding hands and kissing on a date years ago. That was one of the many things that I read about Ari today. What an exceptional human being, and that is such a great loss for our community.
Yeah, so talented, so beautiful, and is such a devastating loss. You know, why is it always the talented ones, you know, the ones with impact that are taken from us? And cancer does suck, Faye, yeah.
You know what makes me sad on the news yesterday when I heard a very close friend of mine contacted me to tell me that Ari had passed. One of the things that is sad to me is that Ari was a precursor to the RuPaul years. And Ari, young Gen Zers in our community likely don't know Ari Gold. You should go back and listen to the music now in this opportunity of his passing, his cancer treatment. But he was super popular pre-RuPaul. And many LGBT and other dance music artists were super popular into clubs, national touring, and prides. And lots of that changed with the creation of RuPaul's Drag Race because the queens, even in lip sync, became more important than live performance. And Ari was one of the people that spoke about that over and over about what was happening in gay culture in our community. I think irony that one of his biggest advocates and his best friends that he communicated with frequently was RuPaul, whose show had direct negative impact on Ari Gold. And he explained that so clearly, but without animosity or remorse, just the factual nature of what was going on in our gay community, and continued right up till the end, including RuPaul's tweet yesterday to Ari Gold. I think it's a fascinating story about what had happened.
Rest in peace. Next, we queer up travel. How RuPaul's Jackie Cox became the face and the butt of Orbitz or Butts. For many, Valentine's Day looked a little different this year, but timed to this day of love and romance, the travel website Orbitz has teamed up with Jeff Perla of The Traveling Bum for a queer-centric campaign called Orbuttz. The face? RuPaul's Drag Race's Jackie Cox. Out magazine reported that Cox was selling a few nude photos to fans. Cox said, quote, "They reached out to me right after that story went up. They just asked if I would be the face butt of Orbitz," end quote. For the project, Perla gathered a group of LGBTQ influencers like Logan Fletcher, Cheyenne Parker, and the Zakar twins, and Brittany Thornton to take some peachy Valentine's Day photos. Cox appeared in hers with Perla and talk about where they might want to travel when the world opens up. As part of the effort, Orbitz also donated to the Stonewall Community Foundation. Cox continued, quote, "I think what's cool about this campaign is for people to get the opportunity to start getting excited about the future. I think we're finally at that moment of being able to travel again. But beyond that, I'm not gonna lie, I was so disappointed to see so many companies pull out of supporting queer projects, queer creators, queer artists, queer entertainers without all the big fanfare of the pride parades in cities around the globe," end quote. Cox continues, quote, "So I thought it was really cool that Orbitz is taking a holiday like Valentine's Day, which really isn't especially queer. Valentine's Day is pretty heteronormative and really taking and embracing it in a fun, queer way," end quote. Queer News Tonight congratulates Orbitz for this very clever embracement of our LGBTQ community and travel. Happening Out Television Network is launching a new LGBTQ travel show, and it's hosted by me! By me, Faye, what? And one of my favorite people, David Hopkins.
Wow, what an amazing campaign. That's brilliant. I got to tell you, I am an Orbitz customer, and from now on, I'll be booking in pairs.
That's funny. You know, it's interesting to me when I saw this. I've come, obviously, as both of you know, I've come out of the travel industry. In 2013, we did the first major drag cruise in the world with Carnival Cruise Lines, and we had, I don't know, 1,800 guests on a ship, and 40 or 50 of the RuPaul Queens hosted by Michelle. And about 2 months before the cruise, the vice president of Carnival Cruise Lines came out and said, well, we love having this group on the ship, but there had been some negative comments about it. You can't be in drag. No drag queens on the cruise. It made international headlines all over the world. I did so many interviews because only the drag queens could be in drag when they were on the stage, and that was all. That was the corporate philosophy at Carnival Cruise Lines in just 2013, 2014.
Wow.
Now, the backlash was overwhelming. They realized the voice of LGBT America, and they rescinded their decision very, very quickly. But I think it's just fascinating. In just 6 years, another brand, Orbitz, is part of the largest retail travel brand, booking brand in the world. And the largest travel booking brand is not only embracing the LGBTQ community, embracing RuPaul's Drag Race, but doing it by making fun of their own name of Orbitz, of becoming Orbuttz, and showing rear ends in their advertising. Has LGBT come a long way, and corporate America's embracement of it. Amazing.
Hell to the yeah. They asked me to use my butt, but then they were going to have to change it to Orbutz. And they said that wasn't going to be a good way to go.
Not the same
so I
thing.
said, not the same thing.
Yeah,
I get it.
And Dan wouldn't be as interested, by the way, in books.
Well, on that, let's queer up health. CDC report signals the agency will resume work on LGBTQ plus health. Advocates say a new report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention signals that the agency will resume critical work on LGBTQ plus health, something they say is direly needed during the pandemic. The CDC released a report last week detailing the many health disparities that make lesbian, gay, and bisexual Americans particularly vulnerable to complications from coronavirus. Information on transgender people was not included because the survey turned up too small of a sample size of respondents, the CDC noted. Intersex people were also not represented in the dataset. The report's stated goal is to guide future data collection and create a roadmap for tackling health disparities, but the data itself is not new. Under the Obama administration, the CDC had been documenting the health challenges facing LGBTQ plus people. The Trump administration, however, hit the brakes on LGBTQ data collection. Jessica Halem, former LGBTQ outreach and engagement director for Harvard Medical School, said, quote, "We have to ask these gender identity questions, and we can ask simple questions about sexual identity that let us know who we're reaching and who we're not," end quote. LGBTQ plus organizations have been sounding the alarm for a year about the ways in which queer Americans are being hard hit by the virus, but until now, federal reports have been given little weight to those fears.
Well, you know, today's theme is probably some good news and more good news. And it seems to be our February 15th, which is excellent for LGBTQ America. The news here is the CDC is paying attention to our community. We have reported probably at least 20 times in the last year about very specific issues that face the LGBTQ community more adversely than our straight or heterosexual counterpart communities because of COVID-19. And we get this new announcement that the CDC says, with new leadership at the CDC and a new president in the White House, that's important to us and we're going to do something about it. Good news for health.
You know, when I was researching about this story, right, I was blown away by the percentage of LGBTQ plus folks that smoke. right? They said 49% of LGBTQ plus folks smoke. That's a lot, and smoking leads to asthma, hypertension. I can go on and on and on. And COVID loves people that have those things, So, the new administration is doing a lot for LGBTQ plus, and health is right up the alley of future help that we need. It will happen. I love the fact that they're even shedding light on this so early on in the game.
Absolutely, and I agree with you, Al, that it is really nice to be part of the dialogue and to actually be, part of the discussion, which has not been for the last 4 years, as you can see. But add to that not only the health problems, but all of the mental issues and the isolation issues that came from the pandemic. So it could not come at a better time.
Yeah, absolutely. We're part of the room. We're in the room now. Well, let's continue by queering up the world. White House is vague on whether Biden will confront Putin over the anti-LGBTQ abuses going on in Russia. Watch this.
Russia has this week arrested and detained 2 gay men and forcibly returned them to Chechnya, where they were escaping persecution. Will the president, consistent with his bringing up the solar winds hacks, the election interference, bounties on U.S. troops, confront Vladimir Putin on anti-LGBTQ human rights abuses?
Well, the president is not afraid to make clear to President Putin areas where he has disagreement, areas where he has concern. I would suspect that because he spoke with President Putin a week or 2 ago, that the next contacts with the Russians would be at a lower level, either at the State Department or other officials. So I'd point you to them for a more up-to-date response or on our engagement there on that particular issue.
What about sanctions? Would that be on the table for anti-LGBTQ abuses in Russia or elsewhere?
There's a review that's ongoing about a range of problematic actions that have been taken by the Russians, and I'm not going to get ahead of that process.
By the way, that is an LGBTQ reporter for a LGBTQ newspaper sitting in the White House press office. Great. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was vague Friday on whether President Biden, after an initial call with Vladimir Putin on election interference, hacking into the U.S. government, and possible bounties on U.S. troops, would similarly confront him on anti-LGBTQ human rights abuses in Russia. Psaki made the comments in response to a question from the Washington Blade in the aftermath of a report this week that Russia arrested and detained 2 gay men perceived as gay and forcibly returned them to Chechnya, where they now face persecution. Psaki said, quote, "Well, the president is not afraid to make clear to President Putin the areas where he has disagreement, areas where he is concerned," end quote, without elaborating on whether that includes anti-LGBTQ abuses. The incident in Russia was the latest report of the Kremlin essentially giving a wink and nod to Chechnya over anti-LGBTQ human rights abuses on the hands and at the hands of the government in the semi-autonomous republic, including reports of concentration camps for gay men. Russia and Chechnya have denied any abuses. During the Trump administration, the White House response was virtually non-existent at the height of the reports of anti-LGBTQ abuses in Chechnya in 2017. Former White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said she didn't know whether the issue came up in a meeting between former President Trump and the Russian ambassador, nor whether Trump had been briefed on the reported atrocities. State Department spokesman Ned Price, who previously said the Biden administration was troubled by the account in Russia, had no updates when asked by Michael Laval of the Washington Blade during the Friday teleconference, saying, quote, "You've heard me. You've heard others speak out forcibly about Russia's abysmal human rights record," end quote. Price did note, however, Biden's presidential memorandum that commits the United States to promoting LGBTQ rights abroad.
Can I tell you guys that I love Psaki? and I love sake, and I used to love sake when I used to drink, right? But I really do appreciate her. And I love that when she was asked this question, it kind of, first of all, we're in the room. Let's say, woohoo, we're in the room. I was so excited to see the reporter there in the room from the Blade. But going back to that, when she was addressed with this question, she didn't want to meter la pata. My Latinos know what that means, right? Like, you can't say too much. You don't want, Dan is nodding his head, right? You can't say too much because you don't want to get in trouble with the powers that be. I personally think that our new president, Mr. Biden, will have his words with Putin when the time comes. He's just been a little busy. Just been a little busy.
Just a little.
Well, I'm with you. I am totally crushing on sake. It's so nice to have her, there. And, Al, absolutely so amazing to have the Washington Blade in the room. And, to this, it's terrifying what's happening in Russia. It's like really terrifying. And I just have faith right now in President Biden's memorandum that really shows a commitment to promoting LGBTQ rights all over the world.
To our national and international audience, I draw attention, all three of us have commented on it, but representation matters. First off, that's the number one issue here. Representation matters, and we give the shout out to Michael Laval at the Washington Blade. He's sitting in the room asking the questions that I would want to ask to report at Queer News Tonight. So he is representing all of us. Congratulations, Michael. You're doing an outstanding job in the first month of this new administration. And I have confidence that they continue to sing out of the same hymnal in the new administration, which is they're going to push and they're going to push and they're going to push. Even if we don't get what we want immediately, the push is the first important steps that need to be done.
Next, we queer up trans rights. Mississippi ignores experts and votes to ban trans athletes from school sports teams. Mississippi has voted overwhelmingly in favor of banning trans athletes from school sports, ignoring all evidence proving that such bans are harmful and unscientific. The state Senate, which is controlled by Republicans, passed a discriminatory bill in a 34-9 vote this week with very little prior discussion. The bill will now be voted on in the Mississippi House of Representatives, where Republicans also hold the majority. The Human Rights Campaign Mississippi State Director Rob Hill said, quote, "All this bill does is